15th mantra, the face of truth is covered by the golden disk. O sun, remove it, so that I may behold who is of the nature of truth. It's worth mentioning that the seeker, the sadhak, has put in extraordinary spiritual effort, having renounced the entire world, having pursued the goal, the sole goal, the only goal of realization. He performs it with the spirit of ananya chinta. One is to have a goal. It is yet another thing to never lose sight of the goal. We all have goals, but many a time we lose sight of the goal. Our chinta gets distracted until somebody comes and reminds us, hey man, you know what are you doing? You're reminded of the goal. But this seeker, having attuned to the goal, he dedicates himself with ananya chinta, means that consistency of purpose. And having reached that point, he realizes that the face of truth is covered by the golden disk. So there's something separating him from that experience of realization. And without in a second thought, he says, remove it. Because he says, man, I have done everything. I know what all I've done to get here. So don't deny me that experience. I deserve it. As we explain, it comes out of the sheer tapas. You take a certain liberty. So he took the liberty to say, remove it because I deserve it. And having reached that state, he says, I am of the nature of truth. I remain helpless because I don't know how to take that last leap to experience the self. I am of the nature of truth. I surrender to providence. I surrender to nature. I surrender because I can't do much. I'm, in fact, a little helpless here. Please understand my helplessness. Because, as we explain, that a seeker, having got rid of all his desires, why does he find it difficult to remove the last bit of desire that's obstacle between him and God? Because we said the logic behind that, if you remember, you need another desire to replace it, to remove this. You need a higher thought to get rid of a lower thought. You need a superior value to get rid of a lower value. Like you need a thorn to remove a thorn. But this sadhak, he is at that stage where there is no other thought that can replace this thought of realization. He has given up every other thought for this thought. He has renounced every other desire for this desire. Now, it doesn't make sense to entertain any other desire other than this, isn't it? Absurd. So he says, I am very clear. I don't want to entertain any other thought. So I don't know how to get rid of it. So he surrenders. In this verse, he only says, remove it. know whether it's actually removed or not, we do not know. That but of climax is still there, yet to be seen. But given the conviction with which he speaks, most likely he gets it. So we also made a very powerful point that bhakti or devotion is not asking for something. In fact, when you ask for something, you demean yourself. You feel something is not right when you ask some favor from someone, isn't it? How comfortable are you to constantly knock at somebody's door and ask for something for yourself? Can you do that? Once in a while? Whenever you are in need, you can always knock at somebody's door, isn't it? You feel uncomfortable to ask something. But when you have paid a price and you deserve it, when it is your right, there is no hesitancy, isn't it? Like you've done elaborate planning for a holiday trip, and you have been very clear in what you wanted. All your reservations are in, payments are made, and you check into the hotel with the family saying that we will be there at this time. And if you are going to charge me more, never mind, we are landing there early morning. I need the room, right? You better get it ready. Yes, sir, everything is fine. There's written communication. Everything is sorted out. Your agent also says, sir, all what you had requested for has been accepted and it will be available. And you land in the hotel at 6 o'clock in the morning because that's your flight landed early morning. So you reach the hotel at 6 o'clock in a foreign country, in a foreign city. And when you go to the concierge, to the lobby, and you given the papers to say, I want to check in. I'm sorry, sir, your room is not ready. It'll take 2 hours to get ready. Call the manager. Who is that fellow who is in charge here? You go and say, sir, please, can you do something? No, a small favor, can you do? We have come all the way, 20-hour flight. You see whole families there. Can you please do? No, please and all. Where is that fellow who's in charge of this operation? Call your manager, call your managing director. You people, don't you know what you have got? The clear instructions from my end. It's been a month. I've told you all to get this done. This is our special request. I've also told you all, if you have to charge me more, don't mind to charge me. I don't want to be sitting with the family in the lobby, man. I want to go and freshen up because I have a long day ahead. Your tone changes, isn't it? You don't beg, you don't plead, you don't fall, you don't ask for a personal favor. What is your attitude when you go to a temple for a prayer? Yesterday, we were at a temple with a group of people. We all visited a temple, and the pujari comes and he'll ask your gotram. You tell your gotram, your wife's name, your child's name, your grandfather's name, this name, that name. Everybody was saying this gotram, that name, this gotram, that name, this was that flow. And then they'll chant some mantra and some offering, and then next turn comes. There are 20 of us there. And my turn came, I just kept quiet. I said, pass. I said, sir. I said, pass, pa. Popa. I said, I will have nothing to do with all this personalization of prayer. Prayer is to demolish your ego, and you're asserting your ego by announcing your gotram to God as if He doesn't know. What are you doing? I tell you, it's a mockery. You tell your gotram, your name, your star, your moon, your sun. You go to Lord. You must be self-oblivious. Self-oblivious means, by mistake, I said something I don't understand. Now I'm lost for words. Suddenly, you utter many things when you're in the, sometimes the mood, you would speak. But what does the word oblivious mean? Self-oblivious. No, don't do any Google search. Huh? I know people, I know who is doing Google search also, I'll know. Because forget your idea. Enna Lakshmima? We can't hear you, my dear. Please unmute yourself.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, oblivious means you don't know what's happening or you're unaware, okay, to whatever is happening. So you're oblivious, just now you said to your self, right? So I take it as forget who you are, what you are, why you are, just be there. No?
Yes, absolutely.
That's
Why do you have to assert your ego in front of the Lord?
Guruji, one more question I had. I'm sorry, this is a bit of diversion because my brother-in-law from the US asked me this question and I didn't know. What is Kotram?
Asked you or asked the Guru?
No, his son is getting married and the priest asked him, what is your family's Kotram? And I don't know. We just say the star when we pray, but what is Kotram actually? It's your
Asking
family.
wrong person. Asking wrong person.
Can someone enlighten me? He asked. I just have to answer him.
Outside the class, contact Rajima. She'll give you entire detail. She'll
Okay,
give
okay.
she will give details of his Gotram also.
Okay. I will do that.
Not just explain what Gotram is. She'll give you the lineage also. There you
it's
go.
The lineage, right? But anyway, I will ask her offline. Yes.
Thank God. Otherwise, the next half an hour will be discussion of Gotram.
No, because the US priests obviously know, right? But I don't know why he asked.
Tell him the marriage can go on without Gotram also. Everything can go on without it. Make you believe you are a slave to all these rituals and forms and practices. Just make you a slave of it. If you can stand with conviction like this sadhak stood in convictions and remove it. None of this nonsense. Remove it, man. I've done everything. You need strength, I tell you. You need conviction. And I said, don't mistake it to be an air of arrogance or vanity or ego. It's not ego or vanity. It is just very sheer conviction that I can do without it. So when the Pujari was asking, I just folded my hands and say, I'm sorry, nothing. I'm not giving. I knew everything of my star, my Gotram, everything I knew. I will not give it. I'll not do it. Thank you. You just mutter what you want to mutter and move on. I want to be what I am. And that's not arrogance. I'm not trying to bulldoze anything that's happening. I bow down with humility. But I said, I will have nothing to do with all those traditions. If I'm not convinced with it, I'll not do it. And I think it's an unnecessary assertion of your ego in front of the Lord. So your prayer must be self-oblivious, where you forget yourself, where there's no ego, where there's no demand, there's no want. So why do you go up to the Lord to ask for something? Plead the Lord. Don't ask or plead or beg the Lord. Command. Do tapas to the extent that you don't want anything. But here the student is helpless because there's nothing else he wants. So let's see what happens. 16, please. Pushannekarsheyamasu yaprajaapatyavyuharashmin samuhatejo yatte rupam kalyanatamam tatte pashyami yo savasau purushasohamasmi. Pushannekarsheyamasu yaprajaapatyavyuharashmin samuhatejo yatte rupam kalyanatamam tatte pashyami yo savasau purushasohamasmi. Soham asmi. Soham asmi. He am I. I am that. All right. Now he concludes with that. Here he says, O son, Pushan. Pushan means, O son, you are the soul traveler, the controller, acquirer. Prajapati. Prajapatya. You are the son of Prajapati. Do remove thy rays and gather up thy brilliance. I behold that form of thine, that being that is most auspicious. He am I. Now, when he says, remove thy rays, gather up thy dazzle. So in verse 15, or mantra 15, when he said, remove the disk, assumption is not seeing the light. In the 16th mantra, what is he saying? Remove thy rays and gather up thy brilliance. Gather up thy dazzle. What does it mean? Simple language, what does it mean? What does it mean, Kashish?
Guruji, I'm interpreting it to mean he's asking the sun to stop shining so bright so that he can see beyond the light.
So shine a little bright, not so bright. You are too bright, O sun. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, that's my understanding, yes.
But will the sun shine little less for you and me?
No, Guruji.
Then do remove thy rays, he says. Gather up thy brilliance or dazzle. He couldn't see because it was covered by the disk, am I right? And suddenly when the assumption is the disk was there, the next mantra, because of the student deserved it, the disk was removed. And when the radiance, the brilliance of the sun was shining through, he couldn't behold. He was awestruck. It's like, even when you get up first thing in the morning, let's say you got up a little late, and if you wear these blackout curtains and you're completely dark, and if somebody comes, opens the curtain, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, pretty bright sunshine. And you first open your eyes after sleep, the first few moments of that rays is, you're not even seeing the direct sun. Even that first moments of that brightness of the sun, you can't, it takes a while, isn't it? But imagine looking at that very brilliance of the very sun itself. So in fact, having commanded the disk to be removed and the sun to shine, here he's not able to experience that. He's not able to absorb all of that. But don't mistake anything, that it's not that expression has not been mistaken. In the very next line, he says, what does he say the very next line? I behold that form of thine. I behold that form of thine, that being that is the most auspicious. I have not known anything that auspicious, man. It's the most auspicious. Kalyanatamam. That's why they say Kalyanam. The word Kalyanam is derived from this root word Kalyanatamam. It means an auspicious occasion. Kalyanam is an auspicious occasion. So he's saying that is the most auspicious thing of what? Beholding that form of thine. And then he says, Soham asmi. And then he says, you, that he, am I and you are same. Realization. There is no more separation between I and the self. I am the self. You become the very self. I tell you, the way these people dramatize it is fabulous. It's just amazing how they're able to capture that sentiment through use of words which don't convey that much, which cannot convey that much. The words are limited, no? It's amazing that feel of it. You got to feel it, and I can feel it sitting here. I'm very sorry, I can't convey that to you because it's a sheer distance between you and me now. You know, I was there for a day's workshop for a group of for a company, and some of them had connected with me online for a workshop a few months earlier. And it was my first workshop with them in person. So, as it were, first physical classes I had taken. And I tell you, it was such a difference. You can connect yourself with them. That physical connection of being there, creating that vibe, creating that atmosphere, is something different altogether. And I miss that, and genuinely missing that while I'm trying to share this, because it's so nice if we all were together in a setup, in a classroom, in a typical Gurukul classroom where the teacher is teaching the thought, where a text like this has got the backdrop of the pure devotion and the intention to learn, and the Guru wants to genuinely teach. And this is an ideal, and having an ideal setting for this. And what it does is it arouses that sentiment. It arouses that feeling, which is so pure and divine. And all of that is happening online. What a disaster of all. This is a disaster of all. Now, what can we do? I can do nothing but continue explaining the verse. Say, enough, sir, all this. Please explain the mantra. O sun, Ushan, he says. Ushan. Sir, you must understand the sun symbolizes the reality. Sun represents the consciousness. So here he is glorifying the sun, which is glorifying the consciousness. O sun, Pushan is that it nourishes everything. Sun is that which gives vitality to everything, to all beings, isn't it? All the three kingdoms. Everything is nourished by the sun. Can you imagine a life without a sun? There are places in extreme places on earth where they don't even see the sun for 6 months. Isn't it? Where is that? Some North Pole somewhere? They don't see the sun. Can you imagine a life? And when you see documentaries of that, they say it's actually 10 o'clock in the morning, completely dark. So they don't know whether it's AM or PM. Completely dark. And the moment the sun rises, everything bristles into activity, isn't it? The moment sun goes down, everything dies down. So the sun is that which gives vitality. So he can't imagine a life without the sun. So he says he worships the sun. Oh, sun, Pushan, you're the nourisher. And then the adjectives he gives, He says, you are the soul traveler. You're the lone courser in the sky. Nobody there around you, you're alone there. That going about doing your job. And what is the job of the sun? It goes about illumining everything. And while it illumines it, while it gives its vitality, while it nourishes, it remains a perfect sakshi. These are the two aspects of the sun. These are the two aspects of the consciousness. Consciousness of God is that n homogeneous mass of consciousness. It's a homogeneous mass of reality. It's a homogeneous mass, means one mass, which is enlivening everything. Everything is enlivened because of that. It enlivens it, and it has got no interest in what it's doing. It's a witness. So we got to borrow that quality from the consciousness. I hope you all are following. Oh sun, you are a nourisher. You are the soul traveler. You are that which enlivens everything and has got nothing to do with it. You are the controller. Yamaha. Yamaha. Lord Yama. What is Lord Yama? Haresh, do you know Lord Yama?
Guruji, I've heard of Lord Yama, but I don't know what it represents.
What it symbolizes. But what does your Lord Yama symbolize? In which context have you heard of Lord Yama?
There are old stories I've heard when I was young. Something to do with
Might be still relevant.
something to do with some destruction or something, from what I recall.
No, your memory is serving you well.
That's all I remember.
Lord Yama is the Lord of death.
Yes, I remember.
Okay. So Lord Yama is the Lord of death. So the Lord of death has to be above death, isn't it? One who controls death has to be above death. Am I right?
Yes.
So whenever they talk of death, there has to be a birth. I mean, there had been a birth, therefore there is a death. Now, whenever you talk of death and birth or birth and death, what are we talking about? You're supposed to see the screen, see me. Where are you seeing? Every time I ask you a question, you're turning your head there.
No. There's a text. I'm just looking at the text.
I know you're copying from there.
I'm just reading from the text.
How can you read from the text when I'm asking you a question? It's like copying, no? Oh. It's not allowed.
Okay.
Open cheating, this is called. No, I'm just trying to take you along, Harish.
Yes.
When he says Yama, Yama means the Lord of death. The Lord of death is above the cycle of birth and death. Whenever the question is, wherever and whenever there is a cycle of death, what does the cycle of death and birth symbolize? Have you got what I'm asking? Have you jotted it down?
Yes. What does cycle of birth and death symbolize?
What does it symbolize? All right, no problem. Think along, Harish.
Yes.
Amitama, what does the cycle of birth and death symbolize?
So can I say change and impermanence?
Perfect. It symbolizes change. It symbolizes impermanence. And what does that talk about?
Transitoriness and yeah, sorry, sir. That's all I can offer now.
No problem. In fact, you're right. Your thinking is right. So when you talk of birth and death, you're talking of the impermanent, you're talking of change, and the change or impermanence is the nature of the world.
Okay. Yeah.
So when they say controller, which is Yama, Yama means one who controls birth and death, one who is the Lord of birth and death. Birth and death means imperishable. Birth and death means the world. Therefore, Yama means the Lord of the world, the controller of the world. And what is the world? The law, the world is also nothing but the various laws. So birth happens because there are certain laws that govern it. Death also happens because there are certain laws that govern it. So controller of death means controller of the world, which also means controller of the laws. So when you find these laws functioning meticulously, you only intelligently posit someone who is overseeing and controlling and monitoring all this. Because none of these laws misbehave, do they? They don't, isn't it? So because these laws are all meticulously functioning, we posit a controller, and that controller is Yama. Have you got it?
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you.
Right. Kashish, have you got it? Can you capture that again?
I think so, Guruji. You said that Lord Yama is the Lord of death, so he's above the cycle of rebirth and cycle of birth and death. And when you are above that cycle of change and impermanence, when you are imperishable, you control the world. So therefore, he's the controller of the world.
Perfect. And then I said the world also can be understood as laws, isn't it?
Yes.
So when these laws are behaving themselves, what do you mean? Like if you go to a particular country or a particular office or a particular organization and you see everything so meticulously organized, everything is functioning so beautifully, so rhythmically. What do you posit? That someone who's managing this facility is doing his job well, isn't it? Like if you walk into an airport and you find everything is so, every department is doing its job well, that means somebody is very well organized it and is monitoring all that systems, every system in its place. So exactly the same way, the world which functions is functioning based on the laws which govern it. And when these laws are functioning meticulously, it almost means that these laws are paying their obeisance. They are bowing down to a superior law. And that superior law here is Yama, the controller. So we're giving two interpretations, as it were, but a little deeper interpretation or extending the interpretation. Okay. And then he says, you are the acquirer. The sun, imagine if the sun were to come a little closer to us, what will happen? Today, I did Gro Pravesham puja for the air conditioning. Because Aramaniki Vandona, I almost entered as if I've entered a mini furnace. So I broke the coconut on the, hopefully it will work, because I broke the coconut on it. So I can feel, Reddy Garu, I can actually feel the sun coming little closer, sir. Imagine the sun were to come and acquire us, what will happen?
Burns into ashes, Guruji.
Consumer. So the next 3 months, we will see what is the sun. So don't complain, Pushan. Who's the Pushan?
Sun.
The sun god. So don't complain, sun god. Worship the sun god. Correct?
Yes, Guruji.
So I am able to relate to the frequency of the text, sir.
Yes, Guruji. Very good.
So the sun coming and consuming, you are the acquirer. And then he says, son of Prajapati. The sun god is the son, S-O-N, of Prajapati. Prajapati is Brahman. Son of Brahman is S-O-N of Brahman is S-U-N. Correct, Hariji? I'm little bad at Gotrams and all. Lineage la theriyadhu enakku. Avlo theriyadhu enakku. S-O-N of Prajapati is S-U-N. Correct, dane? Or thumbs up kudungo. Adu boru. Correct, Ilya? Okay. As per the text enna solludu, I'm just saying that. So, son of Prajapati. So, S-U-N is the first manifestation of Brahman. Therefore, it is considered as the highest authority. That's what he's saying. So, sun is considered as a guru. Everyone has a guru, you know. So, sun is considered. And then, having glorified the sun, he praised the sun because sun has given you the audience. He said, remove the disc, and sun, you say, oh my God, you are this, you are that. But, and he gets into that situation. He says, do remove thy gazelle, thy race, and gather up thy dazzle. Why he says that? It obviously means he's not able to take thy dazzle, isn't it? What does the dazzle symbolize here? Shanti? We have to understand that right.
Hari Om, Guruji.
What does a dazzle symbolize?
No idea, Guruji.
No idea. Why the difficulty in understanding that? The sun and its rays symbolizes the experience of self-realization, isn't it? In the previous mantra, the sun was covered by the golden disc. The golden disc, we said, is the last. Okay, do you remember? Last obstacle. It is the last element of matter between you and God.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes.
The last desire between you and God is the golden disc. So when you remove the golden disc, what is it? The sun. Sun symbolizes
Realization.
The glory and the bliss of realization. But since we talk of the sun, he's talking in the same language as the dazzle and the brilliance and the rays. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when he says, gather up thy dazzle, what does it mean? It only means he's not able to behold, he's not able to experience, he's not able to absorb, he's not able to capture that experience. He's not able to capture that experience. So point by point, you jot it down. Then you'll get the sentiment, what he's trying to create. Okay, Shantima?
Okay.
Right. So the seeker is unable to gather, is unable to experience that brilliance. Now, can you tell me why he's unable to? Not that he doesn't deserve it, because the very next line he says, I behold that form of thine. It's like it just takes a few seconds for you, as I explained to Kashish, when you get up from sleep and when the morning light hits your eyes, you're not able to bear it. So just take a moment, you slowly open your eyes, and then once you open up, then you see, oh wow, it's a beautiful, bright, sunny day today. It takes a moment or two to adjust yourself to that. That's the adjustment. But what is the master trying to convey when he says, gather up thy brilliance, gather up thy dazzle? Sidramanji, any idea? Chipan sir, any idea?
Hari Om, Guruji. What? Is he wants him to fold up because he himself is EMI. He has mentioned that.
See, he says that he am I, he says we both are one. And I'll come to that later conclusion. But why does he say, gather up thy brilliance, gather up thy dazzle? Why does he say? So you can analyze the example I've given.
Last time you mentioned that, when you want to go into sleep, you remove that anxiety by just surrendering, and you just don't know when you go to sleep. Same way he says you vacate, you fold up, you.
No, sir, you're taking a different context. But if you could analyze the example I've given, I'm repeating it again. After you get up, the first few moments of capturing the sunlight, you find it difficult to capture.
Yeah.
It takes a moment or so for you to adjust your eyes to the bright light, the brightness of the sunlight. Right?
Yeah.
So what? The same thing is happening here.
Yeah.
So what is it trying to convey here? No problem, sir. Think along. Think along. I'll get someone to else. Anybody else? Arpit, boliye.
So it's much like the scenario of waking up. You've moved from that very conditioned state to that unconditioned pure state. And so it's something that's so unimaginable. Even though you've been working and slogging to get there, it defies anything that you've ever known, any of your senses while you've been in that conditioned state, whether it was from sleep to waking or waking to self-realization. And so it's that you're overwhelmed, and it takes you just a little bit of time to finally realize, oh, this is what I've been seeking. And you settle into it.
I'm so glad to hear those words from you, because you have actually captured what that experience is. It's just that he's, you're rightly said, very well said, Arpitji, that he wanted it all his life. He wants to experience it, But when that moment comes, he is not able to, because all his experiences thus far were terrestrial. And the leap, the biggest leap he has taken is from terrestrial to the transcendental experience. And the leap from terrestrial to transcendental is phenomenal. And his equipments cannot capture that. It is beyond the limitation of his equipments. So for a moment, he is just awestruck. For a moment, he is just it's just wonderment, ascharya, oh my God, that kind of an experience, and that kind of a state he finds himself in, And since he has done everything to get there and he deserves that experience, very next moment, he says, I behold it. Look at that. So that, imagine if he didn't say that, that aspect is not conveyed. The master stroke of it. It's a master stroke of that author, just to tell you it's just not another experience of your life. You have gone through all your life, it has been terrestrial. This is a transcendental experience, and this is an experience where you never ever fall back into the terrestrial fold ever. So it is that path. It's not a path, it's a leap rather, it's a jump. It's like the first step humanity had taken, the first step on moon. That first step was a giant leap, isn't it? Something to that effect was said, isn't it? Giant leap of humanity. The one small step is a giant leap of humanity. And no being has ever stepped into that experience. Nobody knows that. So it is that kind of a very pure philosophical experience. He's saying it's something so pure I'd never known, and that is all that is conveyed. First he says remove it, and then he says, now I know it, now I experience it. I'm that.
Guruji, often you speak of that we can't imagine, right? These two verses, after all these years of study, have finally, in some again, we won't know, right, until we hit that state. But the combination of these two verses is so strong in terms of what is that ultimate experience. I'm sure it exists somewhere else in the Shastras and all the reading, but the combination of these two verses has been really changing. Just it's hard to describe, really. And not until you got to this verse does it all really come into some level of closure or finality of, oh, this is what it is. So thank you. It's just, wow, you're right.
No, you can thank me. It is the Guru that has made it happen. So don't feel,
thank you.
don't hold back. I thought it was only a half thank you.
Well,
it didn't come out.
You're the purest.
Yeah,
we established you're the purest soul on earth. We already established that.
That's what I was looking at. That's where I'm getting at. Yeah. That's what it is. No, in fact, I tell you, this is one of the most profound Upanishads. You wouldn't get, I don't think any other literature, any other scripture, any other text that comes to the depth and the profundity of what it is saying. And if you create a platform where you can actually, I tell you, this is not an ideal setup for an Upanishad class. I would not want to have done that, to be frank. What I would not, it's not me wanting, but I'm saying an ideal setup is to have a physical gathering where there's an ideal setup where the Guru and the student, it can be a couple of you all sitting, and I don't mind sitting with you all early morning. You come with the purest of devotion to learn, and the Guru wants to communicate with the greatest of intent, and that atmosphere is created. We chant and we try and deliberate, understand. It's another, that itself perhaps is a very elevating experience, not that actual experience of realization. It's a far-fetched for now, for all of us, but at least to visualize that. I can feel your sentiment, RPG. So yes, it's very profound, very, very profound. You know? So thank you. So first, in fact, you know, if you draw a parallel to in the 11th chapter of the Gita, you know, which is titled as a Vishwarupa Darshan, where Lord Krishna also shows his cosmic form to Arjuna. You all know what happened thereafter? Vasantama, you know what happened? She will say, I don't know, I was not there, she will say.
No, Guruji, Arjuna wanted Krishna to come back to his old form. He was so scared. He couldn't take it, all that.
He couldn't take it. He couldn't correct. He couldn't digest what the cosmic form was, you know, which Krishna showed. In fact, very rare you get portraits of that cosmic form, you know. It's a graphic description of the verses that describe what Sanjaya saw, because who described? Arjuna closed his eyes, so he couldn't describe. But who described? Sanjaya describes, because he had the vision. He was a man. What does Sanjaya mean? San means senses. Jaya means victory. One who has mastered his senses. Man of self-control can only receive the knowledge, can only receive the wisdom. So he had the ability to conceive or perceive that experience, what Lord Krishna has shown in the Vishwarupa. So same thing Arjuna said then, that he couldn't
withstand.
He couldn't withstand, he couldn't fathom, he couldn't behold. But can you also describe the difference between the Upanishadic student here and Arjuna then?
Difference, Guruji?
Because there's a similarity in both these contexts, isn't it?
But here the Upanishad student has almost reached that state of realization.
He has reached that state of?
Reached that state.
Arjuna was in a state of?
Confusion, fear.
Delusion, confusion. He was nowhere near that. In fact, it is said after the end of the Gita, Arjuna went up to him and said, "Hey, Krishna, you are very eloquently lecturing to me something on many things. Can you please repeat?" He said, "You spoke very well. I know you. I was also asking certain questions, but I can't recall anything. Some here, vaguely here and there, I recall." He said, "Come on, let's go and have a little drink," he said. Never mind, we'll leave that discussion for another time. And your fellow is not ready. If a student is not ready, a guru is not going to waste his time repeating Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. He will not start 19th chapter again. No 19th chapter, 18th chapter ended. You fellow, you don't deserve anything more. Krishna knew that, isn't it? So the difference between the Upanishadic student here is just that little dramatization, just to make us understand there's all your life you had an experience of a different degree, same kind, different degree. This experience is of a different kind, not the same degree. All our experiences, all the joys we experience, is of what? Same kind, different degree, isn't it?
Yes.
I may check into an ordinary budget hotel, or I can check into a 7-star hotel. What's the difference?
Only it's a little more convenience.
A little more convenience, a lot more convenience. You can get pampered from different amenities and facilities, but the experience of same kind. So all what you experience in the world is of the same kind, but that experience of realization is of a different kind. To convey that, he says, "Gather up thy dazzle." And the oru vartha, my God, it conveys that, isn't it? Amazing, amazing. Vyuharashmin Samuha Tejo. Tejaha. Tejaha means I dazzle. Samuha, gathered I dazzle. And then he says, I behold that form of thine. So that spiritual experience leaves him awestruck and astounded. Inability to capture the transcendental experience. And the experience that leap from finite to infinite. From conditioning to unconditioned state. Because you become the infinite consciousness. And then he says, I behold that form. And then he says, he am I. When you say he am I, what does it mean? Gayatri Ma, when he says he am I, what does it mean? What does it suggest?
Suggests that that person, he and the student and that master are one like.
Anamma, we're not talking of he as the master and I as a student. Whom is he talking to?
To the master.
Who is? No, he's not talking to the master. Come back to Hyderabad, Ma. You're very far away from me. Huh? Network is not that good there. So transmission also is not happening well. I can realize that lack of transmission. When he says he am I, who is he? Who is I?
Brahman.
One chance finished. You can't again. Please mute her. But she is the host. You can't do anything to her. Amitama, who is he? Who is I?
Brahman and I. So there is a merging, becoming one.
I symbolizes what? He is Brahman, correct? I
Yeah.
is
the seeker, the seeker of realization.
What does I mean here? Wherever you use the word I, what does it mean?
Is it the small self?
Yeah.
Small self. Okay.
What is a small self?
It's
Ma, you all are
Atman.
thinking too Upanishadic style. Ayyo, ma. Whenever you use the word I, what does it mean?
Atman.
No. The I means the ego. The I symbolizes the individuality. So when he am I are one means the ego has merged with the totality. There is no more existence of this individuality. There's no more. I have merged with that, he says. You and I are one. Yesterday, where we were, that part of the country, it was where the river, the mighty river Godavari, merges with the sea, the Bay of Bengal, you know. So the river merges with the sea. So it's always considered a very auspicious place. People, it's a Kalyanatamam. It's an auspicious place. So people, it took us there to see that. It's a beautiful, majestic sight to behold. But then I was explaining these people. Nobody knows what it is. Just it becomes a tourist spot. But then what is the symbolic is what it is here. See, a river has a birth a river has a depth. So river which has a birth and a death symbolizes individual ego, individuality. Okay. Now, when the river merges with the ocean has no birth and death. So the ocean symbolizes the all-pervasive reality. It's vast, it's infinite. So the river merging with the ocean means the individual becomes that reality. And at the point when the individual merges with the reality, the individuality is lost. That identity of the river, which it had from the time it was born in the mountains, when it started with the trickles and rivulets and streams and the mighty river, it became to be known. All that it was, it loses its individuality. It's no more the Nile, it's no more the Brahmaputra, it's no more the Ganges, it's no more the Godavari. It becomes that ocean. So the individual identity is lost, it becomes the mighty ocean or the sea. And that is what is conveyed here by saying, Sohamasmi, he am I. Therefore, this mantra symbolizes the actual self-realization. What happens then? Where you assert that you are the self. See, when you're standing in front of a temple and an altar, what are you doing? Exactly the opposite of this. Ritigaru, what are you doing when you're standing in a temple?
Guruji, I think we close our eyes and pray. And
Can you think in the context, sir?
let's say individual becomes a reality in the context of that.
Yes.
No, I'm not able to comprehend this.
So when you go to a temple, when you stand in front of the altar, what is it that's existing? Two things. That is the Lord and you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yourself, the individual
Yes.
ego. So I, the ego, and then there is a Lord. Am I right?
Yes.
And there is a separation. You are worshipping the Lord. Isn't
Yes.
it?
Yes.
There are two entities there. Am I right? Now, contrast to that, in the context of the mantra, when the sadhak says, he am I, he also had the sun, which symbolizes the
Lord.
reality,
God.
the Lord or God. But then what is the conclusion? He's saying, he am I and you are one, man.
Merged.
They're merged. So the difference between our experience and his experience is there is a duality. He reaches a state of non-dual. We hear these words, we hear these concepts, but we do well if we bring all that and connect it in a context like this. So you become one with the Lord. It's like, I am no more other than you. I am one. Now, second point. Are you okay with that, sir?
Yes, clear, Guruji.
The second point, when you stand in front of the Lord, it is still an objective experience. But self-realization is a subjective becoming. You become the very self, yourself. So it's no more external. It is an internal experience. And that's why you said, when you go to a temple, you invariably close your eyes in front of the Lord, just to symbolize that the real God is within me. It is not the deity which is so beautifully decorated. No doubt, it is grand, it is divine, but ultimately it is not. You experience it outside, but you behold it within. And that is what this sadhak has achieved. It's a fascinating dramatization. And then he says, this is the most auspicious thing that I've ever experienced. Why he's not able to contain his joy. This is the most auspicious. It is the most auspicious. Kalyanatamam.
But Guruji,
All, yes, sir.
I think not even a fraction of our thoughts are towards self at that point of a time. The moment you close the eyes and pray the God, and wish list starts coming there. And it's only a presenting of a wish list to the God, and without wish list, I don't think in a pure manner we pray the God. And we pray the God for something.
That's why I said this is prayer or worship has become a beggary, a licensed beggary, a licensed asking, a mockery. The moment any thought other than the Lord enters in your mind at that moment, it is nothing short of cardinal sin. You're committing the worst of all sins. That too you commit in front of the Lord at the altar. You cannot afford to. So it's like, I'm just dramatizing it. If you entertain a negative thought about another woman, how crude, how gross, isn't it?
Yes.
As gross a thought is, when you stand in front of the Lord, you are entertaining selfish thoughts of wanting something from the Lord, man. How gross can you be? And this is accepted. Nobody out there is correcting you.
Correcting us.
And right from our childhood days, we are told, parents says, go and ask pray the Lord, ask for what you want. God will give you. God will give you. It is how we have been educated. The cardinal sin. So purest form of worship is to be in a state of thoughtlessness. Self-oblivious. You forget yourself in the presence of the Lord. You don't exist. I don't exist. That I disintegrates in that presence. And it can only happen. So that is a melting point. So it's a culmination point. It can't happen at the suddenly. If you have been thinking all the time of selfish thoughts, you'll carry the same self. What was a person? So what was a person before he entered the temple? Matters, not who entered the temple. What is the state of the person who entered the temple? If you have been a selfish person, you're the same person entering the sanctum sanctorum, isn't it? You don't suddenly become divine person, do you?
No, not at all.
So if you are a pure person outside the temple, the same pure person will enter the temple. So your real character is judged by not what you are inside the temple, what you're outside the temple. Your real spirituality is outside the temple, not inside the place of worship. So don't try to imagine that things will change suddenly and you become transformed and you become a divine person. A crook will remain a crook, whether inside the temple or outside the temple. Maybe you put on a garb of spirituality, but the inner character doesn't change, isn't it?
In fact, Guruji, if you're so pure from before you entering to the temple, there is no need to enter the temple.
There's no need. Wherever you create a temple. Everything you do becomes one long chant of the Lord.
Yeah.
So a temple can't be confined to the sanctum sanctorum. Temple can't be, a place of worship can't be confined to a patch of land and construct a compound wall and say this is a temple and that is not temple. Where is he not?
Everywhere.
So you relate to that. Okay, sir.
Yes, Guruji. Thanks.
So right. Amitama.
Sir, I just had a thought, just a question about that experience of being in the sanctum sanctorium and in the temple. And yeah, I'm not talking about asking from God, yeah, but it is about the gratitude when you say thank you to God, right? Is that also a separateness, that there is someone larger than you, someone more capable than you, who is the provider? Therefore, there is this distance and difference between you and the provider. And what do you say about that? Because that is would that be then, if you take that stance, would that be a position where it becomes difficult to merge with the Supreme, with the provider? Would that also be duality, you think?
Oh, yes. It is in fact duality right until you get to this experience of non-dual. But obviously the separation of the duality becomes more subtle. It's not as gross as you and me, but that time comes where you don't even have to thank the Lord, because when I say thank the Lord for what he has done, means thanks you give me, but not to my neighbor, but not to my friend, not to that person. That means you are not arrogating it to yourself. If I say, oh, thank God you're given me, oh, thank you, you're giving me, but not Amitabh. You're given to me, but not to Shivaji, not to Vasantama, not to Haresh, not to Kashish. What you given me? Thank you very much. Does that not exclude yourself as if you are more important than others? Isn't that ego?
Yeah.
It is nothing but a refined ego. It is very much ego. I need the blessings of the Lord. I need my blessings of my Guru. I want attention. I want love. I want recognition. Allah, what is it? Isn't it ego? So you just be self-oblivious. There is no thought of yourself in anything that you do. It's a very, very profound state. It's a very profound idea to revel in that state. Means to say that you take yourself out of the equation, you take yourself out of that happening, you take yourself out of that moment, then you're that the moment becomes pure. We're only trying to say that when the I, like in a layman sense, we say, when you work without ego, your work becomes divine, isn't it? Work becomes a worship, isn't it? But when you same work you do with a sense of egoism and arrogance, it spoils it all, isn't it? So the ultimate purity is where the self becomes insignificant, liquidated. There's no I at all. And it can't be attained overnight, and you can't reach it unless until you have gone through the process of liquidating the ego. So it's a gradual progression. But at least intellectually, we should be able to conceive what that state is, where there is no I, there's no worshipper. The worshipper and the worshipped becomes one. But now there's a worshipper and then the worshipped. What is being worshipped? The Lord. Who is the worshipper? I. The I and the Lord become one. He am I. There is no more worshipper worshipping. There's only one. I don't know what that word is, one. Siddhuji, you commented something? Okay. Are you okay, Vasantama? Sorry, Vasant saying. Amitama, are you good?
Yeah, I'm just a bit concerned that the next time I go to that temple.
Are you a little wonderstruck? That's acceptable.
I am. Yeah, I wouldn't know what to do anymore when I'm facing the Lord now. Because,
that is the best state to be in.
Okay.
I tell you.
Yeah.
So the more empty you are, speaking in your language, the providence fills you up.
Yeah.
The biggest thing to do, the most difficult thing is to undo things. Can you go about undoing what all you have done so far? That's the most difficult thing to do. The most difficult thing to learn is to unlearn.
Mm-hmm.
Same way, the most difficult thing to do is to undo all what you have done. So much of wrong has been done. So if you can set the reversal process, just be as empty as you can.
Thank you, sir. Brilliant.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, Setuji?
Ramana Maharishi, he came at the age of 16 on the call of Arunachala, and he did tapas in the same temple and for more than a few months. And then because of disturbance, he moved to the hill. And once he moved to the hill at the age of 16, then he till the age of 71, he never visited the temple. 55 years he was in the close to the abode of the temple. He came down, his ashram was set up at the foothills of the very close to the temple, but he never visited. Just wanted to.
So what are we conveying through?
And he once he is realized, self-realized, he is merged with him already, and so he is part of him. There is no need for him to go and.
Now, let's not practice all these things. Huh? Oh, Ramana Maharishi himself did it, therefore I also will do it. Let's not get into that kind of attitude. Man of realization, they have their own way of communicating. You know, it's amazing what he said. Having attained realization in that temple, where he meditated, and from then for 55 years he didn't visit the temple again. So you become that God yourself. And it's not something you go but proclaiming, or is an arrogance or an assertion. You just are. You just exist as reality exists. You exist. I don't know. But the next wonderful, Setuji, but the next couple of mantras, concluding 17, 18 concludes, and the 17th mantra, we'll come back next week and do it. But the next mantra beautifully, sorry, what's that? Okay. Beautifully captures what is the attitude of that man of realization to his equipments. How does he treat his own body? How does he treat his mind? How does he treat his intellect? In fact, in the 17th mantra, he is giving his will. So you can say this is the will of a realized soul. You know, when do we think of writing a will? You know, I think I've lived my life and I don't want any more ambiguity about what I want to do with my belongings. So let me write it off to my near and dear. So in the 16th mantra, he has attained realization. He has got nothing to do with this world anymore. So he's written out his will. How outstanding. He says, I don't want to give out the climax. You read it. He says, amazing, amazing. I think just let's chant for the sanctity and purity of the study we have done. Let's chant 16th mantra and then we'll conclude with the Shanti mantra. Just play 16th mantra once again, ma.
There seems to be a problem, Guruji. She's frozen.
Yeah, okay. So I think you all have got the text with you. Let's chant together, okay? Pushanne karsheyamasu yaprajapatyavyo harashmin samohatejo yatte rupam kalyanatamam tatte pashyami yo savasau purushasohamasmi. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.